Track four is Shopping with Violence, and for this one is a departure from the first three. I think it's deliberate that the first three are reasonably accessible, and then the fourth one it intends to put the album firmly in experimental territory. It's really odd, I feel. Now, what are the elements in this one? I liked in particular the beeping tills and things the random sounds and pitches you get from beeping checkouts. If you stand at the checkouts, you get a pitch from your till and then a pitch from the next till, and they come at random intervals and stuff. And I thought, oh, that's all quite nice. And then I looped it as well, and then I looped that sample as well. I was trying to put some sinister extra elements in. So there's like a twin sine wave. So if you can imagine two sine waves playing two different notes, and when you do that, they vibrate against each other, and then the intervals just change a little bit. But it's very, very simple, just sine waves with these jarring harmonics in between them. And then at one point, I left the click track in by mistake. The Logic, when you're working in Logic, you can leave the metronome on by mistake. And I suddenly decided that I liked that. I liked the click track being in there. And it reminded me specifically of a film, Point Blank, which has got an amazing soundtrack. And there's a great scene where Lee Marvin's footsteps, he's pacing along a corridor. And I thought, wow, it'd be amazing if that becomes the soundtrack, if that becomes like non-diegetic music. And then it did. So that's exactly what happens. The footsteps go on and become this sort of soundtrack. So that's what I did with the click track. Is I took the click track, I processed it just a little bit, so it just with a bit of reverb and stuff, so it mimics those Lee Marvin footsteps. In 2011, we had the UK riots, what was known as the UK riots or London riots, and it started with the police killed this black man, and it inflamed all sorts of tensions which were already there around London at the time. And things got really out of hand for a few days. It was really nasty. There was widespread looting, even arson. There was a lot going on. And this historian went on TV. He's called David Starkey, and he's kind of like it's fair to describe him as like a far right, very conservative historian. He went on in a way that I would describe as like a pseudo intellectual fashion. He described the riots as being, and he kind of looked in the camera to say it because he thought about the soundbite before. He said this was shopping with violence, like this. And the broad point he was making, I think the standard like right wing point to make in these circumstances is that these are all individual acts of immorality, and what I don't know they don't seem to have a plan to sort of stop that happening. They don't seem to see that there's anything to be gained by acting to try and stop it happening and looking at the underlying causes and whatever. And that's what I am very tempted to do, is to look at the whole picture, look at all the social support structures, schooling, everything, right? And I felt that this was in one moment he was sort of dismissing all of this stuff. I think it's worth saying that in the same interview it was a scandalous interview, really. At one point he did seem to equate blackness with violence. He was implying, if you look at the interview again, he is implying that black culture is violence, and that's like, it's terrible. And I was amazed that it was allowed on the BBC, and it's because he's got this intellectual aura that he was allowed to do it. And so that's where Shopping with Violence comes from. With all of the track titles, I'm flipping these things. All of these are things, they're things that I dislike, or things that make me kind of depressed, I suppose you might say. They wind me up. And so I'm flipping them. I'm flipping all of them. So in this case, I like the idea of flipping it to it also sounds to me, Shopping with Violence, sounds like something from a Tarantino film or something like that. In an imaginary way, in an artsy way, I think that's quite fun. That it sounds fun to me. If it's portrayed fictionally on screen, then I think that's really that. It sounds like a blast.